At number 10, Harrison Ford. We all know Harrison Ford as the incredible actor who played Indiana Jones and Han Solo. Harrison Ford rose to fame through portraying those iconic characters and many others, but apparently all the fame he's received is something that Harrison himself isn't a fan of. Turns out the actor hates being famous. In a 2010 interview, Harrison spoke out about his rocky relationship with fame, saying how greatly it has affected his life and in such a negative way. The actor has said that his celebrity status has cost him privacy in his life, saying, quote, "There's nothing good about being famous. You always think if I'm successful then I'll have opportunities. You never figured the cost of fame will be a total loss of privacy. That's incalculable." End quote. The actor also talked about how unrealistic the expectations of fame are, saying, quote, "What a burden that is for everybody. It was unanticipated and I never enjoyed it. You can get the table you want in a restaurant, it gets you doctor's appointments, but what's that worth? Nothing." End quote. Harrison ended things by saying that he's only in it for the money, clarifying that acting is his job and that he's not in it for the notoriety. At number 9, Kristen Stewart. Twilight star Kristen Stewart has been acting since she was a kid, but her breakout role came about when the first Twilight film was released. After that, everyone was obsessed with Bella Swan and the actress who played her, but with that obsession and fame came the burden of having such notoriety, and Kristen has spoken out about her struggles with being in the public eye and how negatively it has affected her. In a 2015 interview with Harper's Bazaar, Kristen opened up about her relationship with fame, where she talked about how being famous is, quote, "the worst thing in the world." End quote. In the interview, Kristen commented on how at the beginning of her career she used to feel utter panic when getting harassed by paparazzi because she felt a loss of control and that she had to learn how to adapt to her surroundings over time. She continued to say, quote, "Having that much human energy thrust at you, then being critically analyzed is obviously disarming. Control issues make me so nervous. It's not knowing what's going to happen. So what people were seeing was what happens when you are terrified. My palms sweat, my knees shake, I don't think I can stand in my heels, I'm breathing heavily, I feel nauseous, I'll be so nervous, and then my body creates something to calm me down and I get so tired." The actress also commented on how she thinks fame can be stupid, saying, quote, "Fame is the worst thing in the world, especially if it's pointless. When people say, I want to be famous, why? You don't do anything." End quote. At number 8, Zach Galifinakis. During a 2014 press conference for the movie Birdman, actor Zach Galifinakis spoke out about his feelings on fame and said that being a celebrity is dumb. This came after the film's cast talked about the notion of being a public figure and having fame, a theme that is consistent throughout the film. When the actor was asked about blurring the lines between performance and reality in the film, Zach began to speak about his own experiences being a celebrity and how he doesn't like it. Zach said, quote, "It's dumb, I'm not interested in it. I like to be an actor and that's it. The blurred lines are, I think, man-made. I think celebrity is a man-made thing. It's not innate in us. We have people telling us we should pay attention to these people for the wrong reasons, their personal lives and that stuff. I'm just being honest. I would rather do my work and go home and watch Lifetime or something." End quote. At number 7, Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson has had a rocky relationship with fame, and it all started after his career was boosted after the success of the Twilight franchise. Robert has said in interviews that his first unpleasant experiences with fame came from fans, saying that some of them were very intense. In one interview, the actor recalled some creepy run-ins that he has had with fans, as he said, quote, "Suddenly, everywhere I went, people thought they already knew me. They look at a photo of me and think they have a special relationship, a friendship, an affair with me, someone they haven't met their whole life." End quote. Coming out of his initial rise to fame, Robert has said that since gaining so much notoriety, he no longer feels like he has any privacy in his life, as he said, quote, "People were like, it's fine, who cares, they're just photos. They'll say, just live your life, but that's not life for me, if someone's observing it." End quote. To have the world watching you at all times feels like a huge burden, so I don't know how these celebrities do it. At number 6, Megan Fox. During a 2013 interview with Esquire magazine, Megan Fox spoke out about the way people view celebrities in the media and how it's unfair that celebrities get treated so poorly by the public and are just expected to take it without complaints. Throughout her career, Megan has been sexualized by Hollywood, and people have made comments about her appearance and personality, some of those comments being quite negative, and Megan has said that it's not fair that she and many other celebrities are just expected to treat this criticism as normal or just part of the job. In the interview, Megan said, quote, "I don't think people understand. They all think we should shut the F up and stop complaining because you live in a big house or you drive a Bentley, so your life must be so great. What people don't realize is fame, whatever your worst experience in high school when you were being bullied by those 10 kids in high school, fame is that, but on a global scale, where you're being bullied by millions of people constantly. Not everyone understands that's the deal." End quote. Being exposed to all of that negativity and not being able to get away from it can be very taxing, so I can understand why this would make someone hate their fame. At number 5, Macaulay Culkin. Former child star Macaulay Culkin was brought into the spotlight at a very young age. Very early on in his career, the actor reached his peak after the release of Home Alone in the 90s. After that, Macaulay continued to have a pretty steady career. It wasn't until he reached the age of 16 that he decided to take a step back from fame. After getting emancipated from his family, Macaulay went a little sideways and started getting himself into trouble. After getting into trouble with the law and abusing illegal substances, the actor found himself back in the spotlight again, but this time for his fall from grace. Everyone knew him as the adorable child star from the 90s, and soon his image became tarnished. It wasn't soon after his public downfall that Culkin took a step back from Hollywood once again. Since then, he's decided to lay low and not gather too much attention. He's since referred to his fame as a blessing and a curse, as it got him a lot of success as a child, but he just couldn't handle the fame. Coming into that so early on in your life must really impact the way you grow up, and I couldn't imagine how it would feel to have to deal with the pressures of being a public figure while also trying to come into your own as an individual. At number 4, Daniel Radcliffe. We all know Daniel Radcliffe for his iconic role as Harry Potter, but what we have neglected to realize is that he's been in the public eye since he was a child, and that put a lot of pressure on him from a young age. Kicking off his career as the boy wizard in 2001, he made a lot of money as a star of one of the most successful film franchises of all time. Though he became very rich and successful, Radcliffe has also had his share of scrutiny from the public. All the money and fame that he has acquired can't take away from the struggle Daniel had with fame since being a child. Speaking out about those struggles, Daniel has said, quote, "People will boo you even if you're a child." End quote. Daniel isn't on social media because he chooses to keep that kind of negativity out of his life, and these days things seem to be better for the actor, but for a while he wasn't happy with his place in Hollywood and hated the fame that he has. At number 3, Jake Lloyd. Sometimes all it takes is one bad experience to change our perspective on a situation. This is pretty much what happened with actor Jake Lloyd after starring as young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. Jake was only 8 years old when he started the film, and you would think that as a kid he would bask in the fame he was receiving. So many kids these days want to be famous, and Jake probably thought the same thing, but when the praise for the film turned to hate towards the actor, that's when he reconsidered his place in Hollywood. The actor said that this experience turned his childhood into a, quote, living hell, end quote. Jake recalled how kids would make fun of him at the time and how insanely busy he was back then, having to do up to 60 interviews a day. He eventually decided to retire from acting because he was no longer able to fit in, and it took a big toll on him. Jake's case here is a perfect example of the darker side of being a celebrity and fame that most people don't acknowledge enough. At number 2, Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig is the latest person to take up the role of James Bond, but apparently the actor wishes he never took up the role. The actor is very vocal about how much he hates playing James Bond, and when promoting the movie Skyfall in 2012, he really let his feelings about the role be known, as he said, quote, "I've been trying to get out of this from the very moment I got into it, but they won't let me go. I've agreed to a couple more," end quote. He has a love-hate relationship with the fame that this film franchise brought him, and he's fed up with the whole thing at this point. Back in 2015, during the release of the next Bond movie Spectre, Daniel got even more heated when talking about his famous role when he said, quote, "At this moment, no, I have a life and I got to get on with it," end quote. He also went on to say that he would, quote, "rather break this glass and slash his wrists than be in another Bond movie." It looks like Daniel just wants to take a step back from all of this for a while after being so immersed in it for so long. And finally, at number 1, Daniel Day-Lewis. If you're familiar with who actor Daniel Day-Lewis is, then you know that this is one incredibly talented guy. Well, unfortunately, Hollywood won't be able to bask in his talent any longer, as he made the decision to quit Hollywood and has retired from acting. This came after he was left feeling underwhelmed after making the movie Phantom Thread. In this film, Daniel played a fashion designer who made couture dresses for people in high society. To prepare for this role, he became an apprentice to the costume designer for the New York City Ballet and even recreated a Balenciaga dress. Needless to say, he prepared heavily for this role. When all was said and done, however, Daniel was left feeling sad and underwhelmed with the film. When he explained his feelings towards his retirement, it almost sounded as though he's lost the enjoyment of acting, as he told sources, quote, "I've been interested in acting since I was 12 years old, and back then, everything other than theater, that box of light, was cast in shadow. When I began, it was a question of salvation. Now I want to explore the world in a different way." End quote. Daniel is now living a more private life away from Hollywood and is happy to give up his fame for a more fulfilling life away from the spotlight and the hype of Hollywood. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Robert Pattinson. The Twilight heartthrob had the spotlight shine on him for the first time after the release of the first Twilight movie back in 2008, and it's really been on him ever since. The limelight may seem like one's biggest dream, but to Pattinson, it's a nightmare. Robert often speaks out about how isolating fame can be and how it feels strange to be held to such a high standard. The actor says that it's a weird feeling to wake up one day and not be considered a normal person. Pattinson even stated that once fame hits, you lose your normal life. Pattinson is also critical of his fame because he's been pegged as that guy from Twilight, even though he's done many other projects since the saga came to a close. He doubts he will ever shake that sultry vampire image, so he chooses to live his life away from the public eye. In at number 9, Kristen Stewart. Speaking of Twilight, actress Kristen Stewart has seemed to have fallen into the same sort of boat as ex Robert Pattinson. Kristen, who's actually been acting since she was a child, really saw her image taken to new heights after the premiere of the Twilight saga. She had her struggle with fame after the very public breakup with co-star Robert Pattinson back in 2013. The breakup that caused massive media attention turned on her and her cheating scandal with director Rupert Sanders. As the drama surrounding the scandal began to disappear, so did she. After the release of her film Snow White and the Huntsman, Stewart seemed to have taken a break from the public eye for a few years. Upon making her slow return back to Hollywood, she was heard comparing her fame to having her limbs cut off. I think it's safe to say that Hollywood rubbed her the wrong way and she just couldn't handle it. Coming in at number 8, Macaulay Culkin. Former child star Macaulay Culkin was brought into the spotlight very early in his career. Upon reaching his peak in the 90s after the release of Home Alone, Culkin continued to have a pretty steady career. It wasn't until he reached the age of 16 that he decided to take a step back from the fame. After getting emancipated from his family, Macaulay went a little sideways and started getting himself into some trouble. After getting into trouble with the law and abusing illegal substances, the actor found himself back into the spotlight again, but this time for his fall from grace. Everyone knew him as the adorable child star from the 90s, and soon his image became tarnished. It wasn't soon after his public downfall that Culkin took a step back from Hollywood once again. Since then, he's decided to lay low and not gather too much attention. He's since referred to his fame as a blessing and a curse, as it got him a lot of success as a child, but he just couldn't handle the fame. Jumping into number 7, we have Daniel Radcliffe. We all know Daniel Radcliffe for his iconic role as Harry Potter, but what we've neglected to realize is that he's been in the public eye since he was a child. Kicking off his career as a boy wizard back in 2001, Radcliffe had his share of scrutiny from the public. Daniel has been quite vocal about his struggle with fame since being a child, saying things like, "People will boo you even if you're a child." Can you believe that? Imagine living your life as a 10-year-old and having people boo you just for being you. I mean, I understand being booed for some controversial thing you did in your past, but come on people, he's just a kid. The actor has also voiced his struggle with coping with fame, saying it's tempting to turn to alcohol to deal with scrutiny. Poor guy. I mean, this sort of gives us an idea as to why many celebs have substance abuse problems, but luckily, Radcliffe's doing okay even with all this fame. But since the end of the Harry Potter movies, he's chosen to keep out of the spotlight as much as possible. Over here at number 6, we have Demi Lovato. Former Disney star Demi Lovato found her start at just 16 years old upon getting her starring role in Camp Rock. After the movie's release, Demi continued to find success on the Disney Channel and with her own music career. But it seems that after her run with Disney, she began to crack under Mickey Mouse's pressure. Just 2 years after the release of Camp Rock, Demi reportedly assaulted one of the backup dancers she was traveling with. This began a very public criticism of the star. After leaving the Disney Channel, Demi found herself caught in the middle of other scandals like drug abuse and mental health relapses. Demi was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and this, mixed with the stress of being a child star in the media, just became too much for her. Demi started going in and out of rehab, but has finally seemed to come out in a better place. Focusing on her music, she's mostly stayed out of the spotlight and continues to get better. Halfway through at number 5, Kylie Jenner. Kylie is no stranger to paparazzi. After the rise of sister Kim Kardashian in the media, a new spotlight began shining on the Kardashian-Jenner family. In 2007, taping of the reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians began, and Kylie was only 10 years old at the time. Having cameras around you 24/7 and growing up with the spotlight on you like that must be incredibly difficult to manage. Kylie, having grown up so publicly, has since shown her distaste for fame. She's vocalized her anxiety when it comes to the press, saying that she wakes up every morning feeling anxious because she thinks that a bad story is gonna come out about her. She's been living with such paranoia for years, it's honestly heartbreaking. She became famous just because she's related to someone famous. She never really asked to have the spotlight put on her, but it's just something she's had to deal with on a daily basis. Kylie even hid from the world for months during her pregnancy because she just wanted to experience her pregnancy without the world watching. Seems to me that Kylie just wants to be a normal person. Coming in at number 4, Zayn Malik. Known for his part in the former boy band One Direction, Zayn was known to have his fair share of grievances when it came to his fame. After leaving the group in 2015, Zayn went on to tell sources that he came to the realization that he just didn't want to be famous and that he lost a lot of people close to him because of it. Zayn really didn't like living with the public eye, so he quit his job over it. Although Zayn decided to begin a solo career, many believe that even that was too much for the singer. After the release of Pillow Talk, Zayn followed up with a number of cancelled appearances and performances, leading people to believe that he's still not up for the spotlight just yet. Coming down to the wire here at 3, we have Avicii. Tim Bergling, also known as Avicii, was a DJ, producer, and musician well known across the world. His death back in April 2018 shook the music world. Although he is known for producing some killer music, he struggled a lot with his image. Being one of the most successful artists in the world and having sold over 10 million albums, Avicii worked hard to keep producing, but maybe he went a little too hard. Avicii was known to have struggled with his health and his fame, even going so far as to take a break from music back in 2014. The DJ went on to say that the partying and wild times that are associated with his job are really what had taken the biggest toll on his health, and that he really didn't enjoy that aspect of his job. During his break, he had 2 surgeries to remove his gallbladder and appendix, so he really did have a struggle with his health. Avicii died by suicide, and many believe that it was because of his poor mental health caused by his job and his fame. Getting close to the end at number 2, we have Britney Spears. I think we all remember the pop star's public breakdown back in 2007 and 2008. Her fall from grace was heavily documented and criticized, as the public had never seen this side of Britney before. She was previously seen as a sweet and charming girl with a baby voice, but after paparazzi snapped images of her attacking photographers with an umbrella while donning her infamous shaved head, Britney's career plummeted hard. After dealing with mental health problems, a failed marriage, and losing custody of her 2 kids, Britney's state went from bad to worse. It wasn't until her fame and the media came into the mix that things really spiraled out of control for the singer. She was labeled as crazy and was put into the care of her overprotective father. Having such a public meltdown was absolutely detrimental for the star, not only for her career but also for her mental state. Finally, coming in at number 1, Amy Winehouse. 5-time Grammy Award winning singer Amy Winehouse experienced so much during her few years of fame. She became such an overnight sensation that she didn't know how to cope with all of her newfound fame. The rehab singer started off her career strong but quickly began to falter under the weight of her own fame. The artist soon experienced severe depression and turned to substance abuse to cope with the pain. Amy was so confused and overwhelmed by all the attention she was receiving that she began getting into the wrong crowd and experimenting with heavy drugs. Amy's career came to a halt after her death in July of 2011 due to alcohol poisoning. After her death, many of Amy's fans began blaming themselves for the singer's passing because they believed that they should have helped her better navigate her place in the media. Everyone was heartbroken upon hearing of her passing, but she's just one of the many examples of what happens when fame gets to be too much.
In at number 10, Dave Chappelle. Dave suddenly became the man in Hollywood after his shining success of his Comedy Central sketch series, The Chappelle Show.
My name is Tyrone Biggins. Sometimes the endless pursuit of crack leaves me tired and depleted. But now cocaine comes in a delicious shape.
Although at the height of the show's success, Dave declared that there was something wrong with Hollywood and that he wanted no part of it.
I don't understand this person, so they're crazy. That's bullshit. These people are not crazy, they're strong people. Maybe the environment is a little sick.
This meant that he was choosing to walk away from a $50 million contract with Comedy Central. He then picked up and moved his family to South Africa to stay out of the limelight for a little more than a decade. When speaking about his decision to leave the show, Dave told Page 6, If you look at me, right, physically now, I'm like 40 pounds heavier than I was when I did the Chappelle show. And people are like, how did you gain all that weight? By resting and eating and paying attention to myself. Adding, I have actual relationships with my kids, I've been all over the country touring all my life, but I never saw anything, he explained. Now I've seen everything, I could talk to people and had time to stop if someone said they liked me. Which, good for Dave Chappelle for noticing that. I mean, he's come back bigger than ever before. In at number 9, Megan Fox. Megan Fox had been acting since 2001, but her roles mostly consisted of small television appearances here and there. However, in 2007, she landed a leading role in the first movie of the Transformers franchise. After the massive success of the first film, Megan Fox rose to A-list celebrity fame. But when she returned for the second movie, her career took a sudden nosedive. After a dispute with director Michael Bay, Fox was suddenly dropped from the rest of the franchise. Shia LaBeouf told the LA Times, Megan developed this Spice Girl strength, this woman empowerment stuff that made her feel awkward about her involvement with Michael, who some people think is a very lascivious filmmaker, the way that he films women. Upon reflecting on her being kicked out of the Transformers franchise, Megan told Cosmopolitan magazine, that was absolutely the low point in my career, but without that thing, I wouldn't have learned as quickly as I did. All I had to do was apologize, and I refused. I was so self-righteous at 23, I couldn't see that it was for the greater good. I really thought I was Joan of Arc. In at number 8, Rob Kardashian. The Kardashian family first became famous when their father gained national recognition as O.J. Simpson's friend and defense attorney during Simpson's 1995 murder trial. From there, the fame was built upon by the rest of the Kardashian family. Well, mainly the women in the family who had no issue having a camera crew inside of their home and essentially direct their entire lives straight to TV. Unfortunately for Rob, he never felt comfortable in front of the cameras, but was constantly being pushed into the spotlight. Rob eventually became a recluse and would often refuse to appear on the show. He only left his house when absolutely necessary, and every time he did, the tabloids would still be commenting on his weight gains. In at number 7, Lindsay Lohan. Beginning as a child actor, Lindsay Lohan's breakout role started in the Disney 1998 remake of The Parent Trap. Later on in her career, she would get even more fame and notoriety for the success of Mean Girls. She seemed destined for long-term success. Unfortunately, that all began to crumble as her spending habits became increasingly expensive and legal troubles started coming her way. At 18 years old, she was worth over $30 million. Although Lohan started a terrible drug habit that was costing her nearly $5,000 a week. Then between 2007 and 2013, she was arrested a few times for DUIs, reckless driving, and altercations, and even shoplifting. In at number 6, Shia LaBeouf. Shia began as that cute kid from Even Stevens that always seemed to be getting himself into trouble. Apparently some of that scripted TV behavior started to bleed over into his real life. In 2013, he tweeted out that his New Year's resolution for 2014 was to be less controversial. This, however, did not last very long, and on January 21st, and for 3 more days following that, he tweeted out, "I am not famous anymore." Well, your IMDb page could have told us that, Shia. He continued on this meltdown when he appeared at the premiere of Lars Van Trier's new film, Nymphomaniac. After claiming that his entire life was just an art project, LaBeouf showed up on the red carpet wearing a paper bag over his head that had the words, "I am not famous anymore," written in black marker. Apparently, even you can still show up to public events and do incredibly bizarre publicity stunts that just made him more famous. In number 5, Britney Spears. The mid-2000s were certainly not kind to pop sensation Britney Spears. From a bitter divorce to having a very public meltdown where she shaved her own head, it was only a matter of time before she had a run-in with the law. In 2007, she was charged with a hit and run while also driving without a license. Initially, she was looking at a year in prison for this, but she ended up not even spending a minute behind bars. It's a wonder how she was ever able to pull herself out of this downward spiral, but what's really concerning is how she managed to escape the law. Fame should definitely not exclude you from the repercussions of doing something illegal. However, Spears did serve as an excellent example of how being so famous can result in a multitude of mental health issues. That, and she burned her own gym down. Yeah, this lady's going nuts. In at number 4, Zayn Malik. Zayn first rose to fame when he joined the uber popular boy band One Direction. These kids were treated like the Beatles. Everywhere they went, fans were screaming and crying or breaking down just from seeing them. Those fans cried even harder though when Zayn announced that he was leaving the band.
I think I kind of always wanted to go, from the first year, really. I never really wanted to be there.
The fame ultimately was all too much for him, and then on top of that, he was forced to play music that he didn't like and have no input on the songs. But now he's got a baby on the way, so I'm sure he's much happier being a dad. In at number 3, Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish has been creating music since she was 13 years old, even boasting in previous interviews how her first song had hit 1,000 plays, which she believed at the time was incredible. However, with the release of her debut album, Eilish witnessed a growth in fame that brought those views into the millions. She suddenly was thrusted into the limelight and had her days packed with performing or working in the studio.
You know what I'm saying? it was year after year of being a child and like having this insane, all these eyes on me, and it was really difficult for a while.
Dealing with that much fame at such a young age had to be startling, and I don't think anyone is capable of properly handling it. Billie has said countless times that she's grateful for her fame, but argues that there are times that she wishes she could turn it off. Mainly at the airport. I read a terrible story about people walking up to her and poking her while she was sleeping. I mean, come on, you gotta wish you could turn that off at some point. In at number 2, Amanda Bynes. We should have known back in 2010 when Amanda Bynes said that she was retiring from acting, then unretiring, then deleting her Twitter account, that something was seriously wrong. After the Amanda show ended, she began behaving more and more erratically. She was in multiple car accidents, there was a noticeable altering of her appearance, and she was arrested for reckless endangerment after she threw a bong out of her apartment window in New York City, which is nuts. As I mentioned, in 2010, she announced that she was retiring from acting. At the time, she was only 24 years old, but felt pigeonholed as the goody-goody type in Hollywood. This specific casting, combined with the Nickelodeon kid image imposed on her, could most likely be what led to this child star imploding, for lack of a better word. Last but certainly not least, in our number 1 spot, Amy Winehouse. Amy Winehouse will always be remembered for her hits such as Rehab, Back to Black, and Tears Dry on Their Own, although Winehouse was certain that she wasn't cut out for the highs and lows of celebrity life. She insisted that she only ever wanted to be a musician and never chased that life for fame. In the 2015 documentary titled Amy, we got to hear a now all too chilling soundbite of the late English singer-songwriter answering a question about her career path.
I don't think I'm gonna be at all famous. I don't think I could handle it. I would probably go mad, you know what I mean? I would go mad.
The new documentary gave a very candid look into the Grammy-winning artist's life before her tragic passing from alcohol poisoning in 2011 after struggling for years with substance abuse. Rest in peace, Amy Winehouse.
At number 10, Billie Eilish. In recent years, singer Billie Eilish has had a lot of success come her way. After rising to fame in 2015 with her song Ocean Eyes, Billie has since grown to become an award-winning artist, winning multiple Grammy Awards, AMAs, MTV Europe Music Awards, Brit Awards, MTV Video Music Awards, and an NRJ Music Award. But with all that fame comes a lot of pressure, and because she's gained massive fame at such a young age, Billie has struggled with it, even regretting her fame at times. Back in 2019, Billie did an interview where she talked about her life in the public eye and how her career and fame has affected her life, and she spoke out about how there wasn't much in the world that brought her peace, saying that though her life is fun and exciting, she doesn't have much sense of calm in her life. When asked about her sudden rise to fame, Billie spoke out about how her fame has had such a huge impact on her childhood, where she said, quote, "I don't mean this in a necessarily negative way, but I sort of lost my teenage years because this all started when I was 13. There's no training, there's no let me go to a school that's going to teach me how to be famous," end quote. It was almost like she was thrown into the deep end before learning how to swim, and she spent the majority of her teen years navigating herself through all of that, which must have been tough for someone so young to do. She's grown up in front of the prying eyes of Hollywood, and that would freak anyone out. At number 9, FKA Twigs. Singer FKA Twigs has experienced the highs and lows of fame. She rose to fame through her music, but many people know her for her high-profile relationships that she's been in. The singer was previously in a relationship with actor Shia LaBeouf, and she was in the news recently after she filed a lawsuit against the actor, alleging that he hurt her several times throughout the relationship. But before this high-profile relationship, she was dating Twilight star Robert Pattinson, and this relationship caused her to gain widespread attention. Because Robert has such a huge following, some of the attention from Robert rubbed off on Twigs, and a lot of the attention she received was negative. In an interview in 2015, the singer spoke out about her experience with fame in regards to her relationship, and she said that she was struggling with the public's perception of her. As soon as they went public with their relationship, Twigs found herself under a spotlight that she wasn't ready for, and when speaking on this, she said, quote, "It's really hard, I can't begin to explain how awful it is. It makes you want to just stop everything sometimes. It makes you want to smash your face into the mirror," end quote. Though she was struggling with the public eye, she did say, however, that it was worth it because she loved Robert so much. Before we carry on talking about the celebrities who hate being famous, why not take a quick moment to leave a like on this video to show your support, and while you're at it, maybe subscribe to the channel as well to see more videos like this one. At number 8, Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga has always been pretty open with her fans about her life and her struggles. She's an open book when it comes to many aspects of her everyday life, and that includes her career and the fame that comes with it. During an interview with CBS Sunday Morning back in 2016, 2016, Gaga spoke out about how her fame has impacted her life, and though she is grateful for the life it's given her, there are a few negative aspects of fame that she isn't a fan of. During the interview, the singer vocalized how being famous impacts your privacy, where she said, quote, "I'm very acutely aware that once I cross that property line, I'm not free anymore. As soon as I go out into the world, I belong, in a way, to everyone else. It's legal to follow me. It's legal to stalk me at the beach. I can't call the police or ask them to leave." End quote. On top of her concerns about her privacy, Gaga has also vocalized how her fame has taken away the freedom to just spark up a normal conversation with someone. The singer said that she missed being able to have conversations with people, as she said, quote, "I miss people. I miss, going anywhere and meeting a random person and saying hi and having a conversation about life. I love people." End quote. At number 7, Gigi Hadid. A lot of people think that being a celebrity would grant you all of these amazing perks, and you would have so many friends because of it, but apparently that's not exactly true, and being a celebrity can actually be a pretty isolating experience. At least that's what supermodel Gigi Hadid has said in regards to fame. During a 2019 interview with Elle magazine, Gigi said that because of her work, she's lost a lot of friends. Speaking on this, Gigi said, quote, "I've lost a lot of friends because I'll get busy for a short period of time and they're not reaching out, but if I don't reach out, then it's like I've changed." She said that because her work is so demanding, a lot of people don't understand how taxing it can really be, and so when she disappears for work for a little while, some people just don't wait for her to return and just move on. To further explain her struggles with keeping her social and work life in check, Gigi said, quote, "There are people who understand that I love them and know that when I get back to town I'm going to call them, but sometimes I can't call every day because I'm in weird places. Because a lot of the time I feel suffocated by my own work ethic and by the expectations I put on myself. It's really nice when you have people who say, it's okay, take time for yourself." End quote. At number 6, Kylie Jenner. Kylie Jenner is no stranger to the paparazzi. After the rise of sister Kim Kardashian in the media, a new spotlight began shining on the Kardashian-Jenner family. In 2007, taping of the reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians began, and Kylie was only 10 years old at the time. Having cameras around you 24/7 and growing up with the spotlight on you like that must be incredibly difficult to manage. Kylie, having grown up so publicly, has since shown her distaste for fame. She's vocalized her anxiety when it comes to the press, saying that she wakes up every morning feeling anxious because she thinks that a bad story is going to come out about her. She's been living with such paranoia for years, and it's really not fair that she was thrown into this lifestyle and just had to learn how to navigate it at such a young age. She became famous just because she was related to someone famous. She never really asked to have the spotlight put on her, but that's just something that she has to deal with on a daily basis. Kylie even hid from the world for months during her first pregnancy because she wanted to experience her pregnancy without the world watching. Seems to me that Kylie just wants to be a normal person. At number 5, Zayn Malik. Known for his iconic part in the former boy band One Direction, Zayn was known to have his fair share of grievances when it came to his fame. After leaving the group in 2015, Zayn went on to tell sources that he came to the realization that he just didn't want to be famous, and that he's lost a lot of people close to him because of his place in Hollywood. Zayn really just didn't like living in the public eye, and so he quit his job over it. Although Zayn decided to begin a solo career, many seem to believe that even that was too much for the singer. After the release of Pillow Talk, Zayn followed up with a number of cancelled appearances and performances, leading people to believe that he is still not up for the spotlight just yet. At number 4, Carrie Henn. Starting a career in Hollywood at a young age doesn't seem like it would be very easy. For a lot of former child stars, they say that they regret getting into the industry when they were so young because it made growing up very difficult for them. Though some stick around in the industry for the long haul, many others quit early on, and this is what happened to actress Carrie Henn. Carrie was cast as Newt in the movie Aliens, but after filming it, she decided that she couldn't handle the pressures of Hollywood anymore. Years after the hit film came out, Carrie did an interview to catch fans up to speed on what she's been doing and why they left Hollywood, where she said that she just didn't want to be away from her family. Carrie eventually got into the field of education and occasionally signs copies of the movie for her students, which is pretty cool. At number 3, Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway has been so successful in the film industry, starring in all sorts of different films, from The Devil Wears Prada to Les Miserables, but in a 2014 interview, Anne admitted that fame has really affected her for a long time. She opened up about her struggle balancing her life with the widespread fame that she was gaining, where she said, quote, "I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to engage with it. It stressed me out. And people would say, you just have to be yourself. And I was like, but I don't know who that is yet." End quote. The actress also spoke out about the criticisms that she was facing after her Oscars win for her role in Les Mis, which caused her to take a break from Hollywood. Speaking on this, Anne said, quote, "My impression is that people needed a break from me." End quote. Acting is just her job, and fame is just a side effect of what she does for a living, adding to the pressures of her craft. At number 2, Amanda Bynes. Former child actor Amanda Bynes grew up in the spotlight, and between the pressure of having grown up a celebrity combined with her public breakdown, it's no wonder that she decided to leave the industry after her fame became too much to handle. In the past, Amanda has spoken out about the times that she felt anxious about her Hollywood career, but in an interview with Paper Magazine, she opened up about the very moment that she decided to quit acting altogether, and this was after she watched her performance in the movie Easy A. Amanda told the publication, quote, "I literally couldn't stand my performance in that movie. I didn't like my performance. I was absolutely convinced that I needed to stop acting after seeing it. I was high when I saw it, but for some reason it started to really affect me. I don't know if it was a substance-induced psychosis or what, but it affected my brain in a different way than it affects other people. It absolutely changed my perspective of things." Unquote. After making the decision to retire from acting, Amanda took to Twitter to tell the public about her plans to leave Hollywood. Although she says that she hopes to one day return to acting, she's also content with living her simpler life away from Hollywood. There was just too much pressure from Hollywood and having all eyes on her, so she had to leave it all behind to feel better about herself again. And finally, at number 1, Jack Gleeson. After gaining fame from starring as Joffrey Baratheon in Game of Thrones, actor Jack Gleeson decided to take a step back from acting and leave Hollywood. Though he was grateful for the experience of being a part of such a huge show like Game of Thrones, Jack told sources that the large amount of fame that comes with the job just wasn't something that thrilled him. Going in depth about his thoughts on his place in the public eye, he told sources, quote, "It was always a recreation beforehand, but when I started doing Game of Thrones, perhaps the reality was made too real for me. The lifestyle that comes with being an actor in a successful TV show isn't something I gravitate towards." End quote. Jack even made the point to not watch his own performances on TV because of how maniacal his character was, as he said, quote, "You tend to abstract yourself from the creepiness of it when you're playing it, but when you see it on television, it sends shivers down my spine." End quote. Since leaving the industry, Jack has gone to college and has a goal of helping relief efforts for those in Haiti who are affected by the 2010 earthquake.
Starting off our list at number 10 is Billie Eilish. She is currently the world's biggest 17-year-old when it comes to stardom. The moody singer-songwriter has a reputation for making unique music videos that always go viral. She first made her name known in the music scene when she came out with the surprise hit Ocean Eyes back in 2016. And even though she is one of the world's biggest pop stars right now, she often goes against that typical pop star image that you would see. She is a fan of her own passion for the art, but she is not a fan of the fame that comes with it. She beats the norm when it comes to Hollywood standards, and she has no problem sharing her thoughts about it. During interviews, she said, "Fame is horrible. It's worth it because it lets me play shows and meet people, but fame itself is effing dreadful." In another interview, she was asked what it was like taking on Hollywood at such a young age, and she replied with, "There is no training. There's no like, let me go to school that's going to teach me how to be famous. Also, that would suck. That would be a trash school. Famous people suck. Fame is trash." Damn, Billie, tell us how you really feel. In at number 9 is Amy Schumer. The comedian hates Hollywood so much she made a whole episode about the downfalls of fame. In one of her stand-up sketches, she joked about how being famous isn't fun and that she's going to pull a Justin Bieber and stop taking pictures with fans. This wasn't for no reason though, it was after a man harassed her while asking for a photo. She also went off about what it was really like to go to the Met Gala that a lot of people dream of being invited to. During an interview on the Howard Stern show, she confessed that going to the gala felt like, and I quote, "felt like punishment." When asked about the dresses, she said, "We were dressed up like a bunch of effing assholes." She explained that it feels like people doing an impression of having a conversation and that it was all very farce. Schumer even admitted to leaving the event early and said, "I left, not the second I could. I left earlier than I should have been allowed. I got to meet Beyonce and she was like, 'Is this your first gala?' And I was like, 'It's my last.'" I think it's safe to say that she probably won't be invited to the next one. Swiping our number 8 spot is Selena Gomez. Fans were shocked when she decided to cancel part of her Revival World Tour and enter treatment for depression and anxiety. She opened up to Vogue about why she checked herself into a facility in Tennessee. She said, "Tours are a really lonely place for me. My self-esteem was shot. I was depressed, anxious. Basically, I felt I wasn't good enough and wasn't capable." It's hard to believe she would feel lonely when she's constantly surrounded by millions of fans who adore her, but she said that there's social anxiety that comes with that. Along with fame in Hollywood comes social media, to which she has been named the most popular celebrity on Instagram, having a current total of 152 million followers. It's one part of Hollywood that she says is a love-hate relationship. She blames social media for her struggle struggles with image and mental health, but also loves the platform it gives to connect with her fans. It seems like people in Hollywood are a lot lonelier than we would think. I always thought, like, how can you be lonely when there are always people around you? But it just goes to show that it roots a lot deeper than just having people physically there. Taking over our number 7 spot is Gigi Hadid. The 23-year-old is one of the biggest models on the planet, and she admits that fame hasn't been the easiest thing to take on. A few months ago in April of 2019, she spoke to Variety about her career and discussed how she's dealt with Hollywood and living life in the spotlight. She even got emotional while speaking about it and said, I quote, "At times, fame makes you feel out of control of your life. I think it's tough. Obviously people judge you. People can create a headline or an opinion about someone based on a small moment or a mistake." Back in 2017, she also spoke with Harper's Bazaar, where she revealed her time in Hollywood has had a huge impact on her circle of friends. She said a lot of things in Friends come out when someone gets famous, and that she has lost a lot of friends because of it. She did admit that in some way it's a good thing because you find out who your real friends are, but that fame plays an effect on every aspect of her life. When talking about her passion for modeling, she admits that she always knew she wanted to support herself and have the creative freedom she has now to shape her own life. It seems like she is grateful for that aspect, but just wishes things could be a little bit easier. At number 6 is Vanessa Hudgens. Her career began and took off with Disney, and she's fully admitted the struggle she has faced to shed that innocent Disney image that you get held above your head. Luckily, she's been able to continue an acting career, and a successful one at that. Not only did she hate the judgment she faced when moving on from Disney, but she also hates just fame in general. During an interview, she said, "I don't like the word fame. Some people like the idea of fame. I don't like the idea of fame. I like being an actress. It's different." She often tries to express the difference between wanting to be an actor and wanting to be famous. She says that people often link them together since fame just naturally comes when you are a Hollywood actor. But she once told Daily Telegraph, "I became an actress and started singing and dancing because I truly loved it. I did not want to be a celebrity. I think fame is just something that comes along when you are in something that is such a success." Like other stars on this list, she hates media and paparazzi and the fact that everyone just tries to get in your business. She says that it becomes crippling. Halfway through our list at number 5 is Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. I know they are two people, but there's no way I'm giving these twins two different spots, so they are a 2-for-1 package deal. Their fame skyrocketed in the 1990s and 2000s with their first role on the hit TV series Full House, which they were on from the time that they were literally infants. As the twins continued to grow their empire, becoming the youngest billionaires at one point in time, it was clear that they wanted to leave that Hollywood limelight. They ended up both leaving their acting careers and more recently declined to be a part of the Full House reboot. Ashley admitted that she feels uncomfortable with acting now, and Mary-Kate claimed that it was just awful timing for her. The two of them have been very vocal on how they hate the attention they get, and they do everything they can not to be in the spotlight. During an interview with Vogue, they explained that they have chosen to stay off social media all these years. Mary-Kate said, "We've spent our whole lives trying to not let people have that accessibility. It's their way of avoiding the things that they dislike about Hollywood, and it seems to be working pretty well for them." Taking the number 4 spot is Katy Perry, another star who wants success in Hollywood just without the fame. She loves creating music but is over the whole famous thing apparently. One thing the singer has strived to do is show that her life in Hollywood comes with a heavy price, and sometimes people don't want to pay for it anymore, if you know what I mean. This is why she created a full-length movie called Part of Me, which documented her entire concert tour back in 2012. She wanted people to see what it is really like to be a pop star, the good, the bad, and all the behind the scenes that actually goes into putting on those kinds of shows. When asked about her thoughts on fame, she said, "I'm tired of being famous already, but I'm not tired of creating. Fame is, I think, just a disgusting byproduct of what I do." She continues to try and show her fans that she's relatable and isn't what people think all Hollywood stars are. Alright guys, at number 3 is Lady Gaga. The star comes across confident as hell, but she has opened up about her struggles with fame and the pain Hollywood can cause. She revealed a lot of emotions with CBS Sunday Morning and said, "As soon as I go out into the world, I belong, in a way, to everyone else. It's legal to follow me, it's legal to stalk me at a beach, I can't call the police or ask them to leave." She got teary-eyed speaking on the subject and said that she has no freedom in her everyday life, but has freedom in her heart, which comes out through her music. One thing she hates the most is how everyone recognizes her in public because it has completely transformed her interactions with people. She says, "I miss people. I miss, going anywhere and meeting a random person and saying hi and having a conversation about life. I love people." I mean, what an eye-opener that is. We can literally go up to anyone on the streets and say hi, and she will literally never be able to do that ever again because she'll always be recognized as Lady Gaga. Here we are at number 2 with Sia. It's no surprise that Sia is in Hollywood, but really doesn't want to be. She wants to share share her music with the world, but not her private life, not even her face. She's the first celebrity to cover her face at all times during interviews, red carpets, performances, literally everything. For years, very few people had actually seen her without a wig covering her face. At first, the world just thought it was all part of her act, maybe part of her character as an artist, but she's been open about her reasoning and says it's everything to do with hating fame. During an interview, she said, "If anyone besides famous people knew what it was like to be a famous person, they would never want to be famous. I don't want to be famous or recognizable. I don't want to be critiqued about the way that I look on the internet. I've been writing pop songs for pop stars now for a couple of years, and I've become friends with them and see what their life is like, and that's not something I want." She was very successful at hiding her image and loved that she was able to go out and do simple things like grocery shopping. No one would even know that it was Sia because no fans or media sources actually knew what she looked like. Since then, she has showed up to a few events without a wig, but still maintains a very low profile. Taking our number 1 spot is the adored Justin Bieber. Over the last few years, we've watched the pop star cancel his tour and walk away from his music career. Not only that, but he's also walked away from Hollywood as a whole. In September 2018, he announced that he was settling and living full-time in Ontario, Canada with his new wife, Hailey Baldwin. Sources say he felt that living in his home country was the right thing to do at this point in his life. This way, he doesn't feel the pressures of Hollywood and has the chance to actually have some privacy. He discussed his struggles of being in the spotlight during an NME interview, saying, "I'm struggling just to get through the day. You get lonely, you know, when you're on the road. People see the glam and the amazing stuff, but they don't know the other side. This life can rip you apart." He went into more detail explaining the isolation of camping out in hotel rooms trying to avoid fans and paparazzi. Since moving to Canada, he has been able to focus on his mental health, which he says Hollywood once destroyed. At number 9 is Jennifer Lawrence. She became one of the best actors in Hollywood at a very young age, receiving her first Oscar nomination at the age of 20 for her role in Winter's Bone. She is known for being the face of the Hunger Games, but admits that she never thought she was going to be a mainstream actor like she is now. She doesn't agree with a lot of the things when it comes to Hollywood, and she has no problem voicing her opinion. In 2013, she did an interview with Vogue where she strongly expressed her opinions on paparazzi. She said, "If I were just your average 23-year-old girl and I called the police to say that there were strange men sleeping on my lawn and following me to Starbucks, they would leap into action. But because I am a famous person, well, sorry ma'am, there's nothing we can do. It makes no sense." She also went on to say how she hates when people tell her to accept her fame and to find peace with it, because often she gets told that being famous is just a part of acting, which it is, but her response was that she was simply not okay with it and said that she won't ever find peace with it because she's just a normal human being and wants to be treated like one. Her idea was that celebrities deserve time off from being photographed, like if she takes 3 months off from work, then during that time she can't be photographed without consent. I don't know how that would exactly work. What do you guys think of this idea? So our number 8 spot is George Clooney. The actor has always been the first person to say that fame comes with his job, but that he doesn't like the price that comes with it. He admitted that Hollywood got even harder for him when he became a dad because he wanted to shield them from it. Like other actors, he's expressed how draining the daily ins and outs of Hollywood can be with the paparazzi, scandals, tabloids, etc. While many people think he has the dream life, he tries to shed some light on that perspective by saying the glamour of Hollywood gets old real quick. During an interview in 2014, he told Esquire UK, and I quote, "There's a funny thing about fame. The truth is you run as fast as you can towards it because it's everything you want. Not just the fame, but what it represents, meaning work, meaning opportunity. And then when you get there, it's shocking how immediately you become enveloped in this world that is incredibly restricting." One thing he wishes he could do is take a walk through Central Park in New York City. He admitted that he hasn't walked through it in at least 15 years. One thing that he says people often don't consider is the fact that he could simply say something, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, and his career is over. Hollywood can get you like that. It can give you everything overnight, but then take it away just as quickly. In spot number 7 is Megan Fox. The Hollywood hottie is very vocal when it comes to the lifestyle Hollywood forces people into. For years, she has taken on the roles of playing a sex symbol, which she now admits made her feel powerless. It now makes her upset that her fans only see her as the hot girl because she knows she is much more than that. Megan says that she doesn't get why people get upset with her when she complains about the fame that comes with being an actress in Hollywood. For her, it feels like too many people judge her for not loving that lifestyle. During an interview in 2013, she didn't hold back when talking to Esquire. She said, and I quote, "I don't think people understand. They all think we should shut the F up and stop complaining because you live in a big house or you drive a Bentley, so your life must be great. What people don't realize is that fame, when you were being bullied by those 10 kids in high high school, fame is that, but on a global scale where you're being bullied by millions of people constantly. Some fans agreed with her statement, while other fans were offended that she compares fame to bullying. Tell me your thoughts on that down in the comments. I want to hear your juicy opinions. At number 6, we have Robert Pattinson, and the actor has had no problem admitting how much he hated his movie Twilight, so it's no surprise that he openly talks about hating his life in Hollywood. He had no idea what he was getting into when he signed up for Twilight. He could have never imagined the fame that would come from it. The actor admits he never wanted to be famous in the first place and says that it has made him feel both isolated and lonely. But unlike some of the other actors on this list, he was actually able to have a normal life before stardom caught up to him. Back in 2013, he told GQ his feelings about fame and said, "It's strange, you don't have a normal life anymore. You spend much time trying to fight it, but in the end you find another way to live." He is grateful for one aspect though and shared, "People don't realize how lonely you are. In any case, I feel fortunate because success didn't reach me very young. At least I had the opportunity to have a life before." I think it is so weird to think that celebrities are out there wishing they could have like the simple things that we do every single day. Halfway through the list, at number 5 is Shailene Woodley. She began doing some commercial modeling when she was just 4 years old, and since then she has continued to act, which has made her well known in Hollywood. However, she is one who loves the art but hates the fame, so it's kind of a love-hate relationship. The amount of attention you get from being in Hollywood can be severely overwhelming, and she speaks openly about her feelings on it. In 2011, she did an interview with W Magazine where she said, "To me, the F word is famous and the C word is celebrity. I hate those words with a passion." She doesn't see herself as either of those things and claims to only be in Hollywood because of her passion for the art. Since she is so into the art, she also thinks she has the right to turn down roles. She says, I quote, "If I'm being hired simply because my name is a name, that doesn't feel good. That's like somebody buying your painting simply because of how much they're told it's worth versus actually enjoying looking at the painting and feeling inspired by it." I have genuine respect for that. Taking the number 4 spot is Daniel Radcliffe. I gotta say, for how famous he is, he sure has found a way to stay out of the spotlight compared to some of the other actors in this industry. He's had to learn from an early age on how to handle the Hollywood lifestyle, seeing as he took on the role of Harry Potter at just 11 years old. The actor has been under a spotlight from media and fans throughout his entire childhood basically, which we can imagine wouldn't be easy. That kind of pressure would be hard on an adult, let alone a child. But somehow he has managed to keep some parts of his life normal. He's open about the fact that he considers himself to be a normal guy and hates when anyone brings up fame or tries to convince him that he is in fact a big star. This is why he tries really hard to lead a quiet and private life. He hates paparazzi so much that sometimes he enjoys messing with them. For a period of over 5 months, he would leave his work and home wearing the same clothing pieces every time he went out. He wore one shirt and jacket every day so that the paparazzi wouldn't make any money off of the pictures because it would always be like the same picture. It would basically be worthless to magazines and websites since they are always looking for fresh material. Excellent work, Mr. Potter. Okay guys, at number 3 we have Kristen Stewart. She has been acting pretty much for her whole life. She grew up in the spotlight, and one thing she has learned is that she's not a fan of fame either. It seems like no one is. She's mostly known for her role as Bella in the Twilight series, but she also had some other major credits to her name. However, she sees fame as a very negative part of the job. Time and time again she has voiced her opinion on the subject, but in 2015 she let it out during an interview with Harper's Bazaar UK. She said, "Fame is the worst thing in the world. Having that much human energy thrust at you and then being critically analyzed is obviously disarming." She said she wishes she didn't have to do interviews, press conferences, and red carpets, but she obviously has no choice since that is part of the job. In our number 2 spot is Zach Galifinakis. Ever since he starred in the movie The Hangover, he's become one of the most famous comedic actors out there. Most of his roles involve comedy, which is why you would think he might find the life in Hollywood all fun and games. However, he actually hates the idea of Hollywood and never had any interest in fame. He is another actor who loves his craft and wishes that he could just act and pass on the rest that comes with it. During an interview, he said, "Being a celebrity is it's dumb and I'm not interested in it. I like to be an actor and that's it. We have people telling us we should pay attention to these people for all the wrong reasons, their personal lives and whatnot. I'd rather just do my work and go home and watch Lifetime." He was once asked why he is so against the idea of fame, and he explained it's because he thinks associating fame with actors is a man-made concept. He doesn't really believe in it. He says that just because the two things are thought of as being the same thing, it doesn't mean that he has to enjoy both or accept them as one. The hilarious actor says he will always just see himself as an actor, not as a celebrity. Taking the #1 spot on our list is Harrison Ford. You might find it hard to believe that he doesn't like Hollywood, seeing as he just won't stop acting. The man is 76 years old and is still kicking ass in the acting industry. But he will be the first one to tell you that there is a difference between the desire to act and the desire to be famous. Unfortunately, being an actor makes you famous and there's not really a way around it, especially when you're starring in the Star Wars franchise. During an interview, he spoke up about his opinion on Hollywood and said, "I have tried very hard not to give a rat's ass about the business part of it because to me it's the wrong way of looking at it. I have always looked at movies as a job." He went on to explain that he feels like being famous has cost him his privacy and that the fame is a burden on all of his loved ones. But unfortunately, there is nothing that he can do about it now. That is what happens when you've been in the acting industry for 40-something years.